Hello everyone on YouTube. This is Mike Martin from Casio broadcasting once again today, bringing you another live stream to answer your questions. So it looks like we have a number of people here already, so I'll take your questions live during the broadcast. I'm also going to address some questions from the Facebook users group and some other things on the user forums. But in the meantime, if you have some questions, bring them along. Looks like we have Joe is here. Welcome, Joe. It's great to have you and everybody else in the broadcast here. So I am watching the chat, and like I said, I can address your questions during the broadcast. So one of the first things I wanted to talk about was a question that came up the other day regarding an application that we used a lot during the original, first couple years we had the PX5 at the NAMM show. We used an app called Setlist Maker. Setlist Maker is a really powerful application for iOS and Android. In fact, now there's even a desktop version, and it allows you to put your songs, your chord changes, all in a tablet form where you can see all of your songs and information about them. But one of the cool things about it is it can send program changes to your MIDI equipment, and therefore make it a little easier while you're performing to access. You choose your song on the tablet and everything happens on your attached MIDI equipment. So one of the questions was, well, how in the world do you configure the PX5 to work with MIDI Designer? And I was going to try and address that question in our previous webinar, but the app had changed a lot since the last time I used it. So I was really kind of unable to address that. But I do have it here today. So I'm going to try and get my iPad out here and address some questions about Setlist Maker. So I should have a view here that you guys can see my iPad while I am up on the screen. And there it is. This is the Setlist Maker app. So again, really powerful application. There's so much that you can do with it. And I created a database here called just the PX-5S database. And to get this work with the PX5, really there's only one big thing that you need to do. Oh, and by the way, welcome Peter. Great to have you, and everybody else. Just love the comments. Hope things are well in Germany. Hope everybody's healthy. So appreciate that. All right. So when you open the Setlist Maker app, the first thing you do is you create a database, and you could have a database for different bands that you're in or different performances that you do. I created a simple one which I will be sharing after this webinar. I'll post it on CasioMusicForums.com. And the most important part about this database is right there, about 3/4 of the way down the list that you see on this screen where it says MIDI presets. So MIDI presets, basically, in this case, I've set up a device. In fact, I'm going to back up a little bit, go to Settings, and go to MIDI Devices down here on the bottom of the screen. And I've created a MIDI device called PX-5S, and it's on my Casio USB connection, and I've told it what MIDI channel to work on. I can also tell it what numbering scheme to use. So once I've done that, I can set up MIDI presets. And what I've done here is I've done the list of 100 stage settings. And notice I just put the bank and program numbers in them. I didn't put the names of any of the factory or other stage settings in the PX5 in there because your configuration might be different than my configuration. So the cool thing here is, regardless of what stage settings you have loaded in, this is a template that you can use to get up and running quickly. So using this list, and I'll just pull up this screen here real quick. When I select one of these on the screen, see that little MIDI icon on the right hand side of this list, it's going to send the corresponding information. So let's select one of those and take a look at it. On the right hand side, you'll see the really important part of this is it says program changes, bank, MSB, bank, LSB, and program number. So I have stage setting 0-0 selected. To select a stage setting, the PX-5S by default is looking for an MSB bank change of 112. The middle number, the LSB, least significant bit, that's insignificant. That could be blank or just set to 0. And the next digit is 0. That's the program change. That's actually choosing the specific stage setting. So the number that goes in that last column, that's the number that will choose the stage setting. So from 00 up to 99. So again, if we take a look at another stage setting, 2-1 on this same list, that is program change 21. All right, so that's how this list of MIDI presets is configured. Now, the song list, I'm just going to put a couple examples in there, but I don't know what songs you're playing with your band. But what I'm showing you here in this demonstration is how to use Setlist Maker and configure it for whatever music you might be doing. So I just put in a couple songs in here. I'm going to pull this back up here. One is called, Just Piano. And if we take a look at that down on the bottom, see, you can put all kinds of information about your song in here. You could put in the title, whoever it might be, or the artist. You can give it different colors. You can put in chord changes, all kinds of information you can put in about your song. So it's a great reference for whatever you might be doing, whatever you might be performing. But down at the bottom, when I choose Just Piano Song, it's choosing a specific stage setting for me. I was just choosing arbitrarily 8-0. So when I go to perform, I guess we go to shows. I set up a demo show. Here's the two songs that I put in here. When I select Just Piano, it's going to send the corresponding change to my PX-5S. So I have Just Piano, and I have this other one in here. I put in Mike's song, is just choosing this other synthy sound for me. So I hope that makes it a little bit clearer. The real trick, hopefully I've done most of the work for you, is in that MIDI preset section. You have all 100 stage settings in here. You can configure them for whatever sounds you have in your PX5, and Setlist Maker will do the rest. So really cool app. Let me know if there's any questions about that. So great. So stay healthy too. Yep, that's what we're trying to do. Appreciate that very much. People are always asking what we're using. We are using a software for Mac only. It's called Ecamm Live, and it's really great specifically for the interaction that we're able to have live with the channel that we're broadcasting on. So because I can see all of your comments, your chats, I can see how many people are here, all the thumbs ups. Really, really appreciate it. Great to have everybody here. Roger, awesome. Hello. Gabriel, fantastic. So like our other broadcasts, please don't hesitate to ask questions live. I'll do my best to keep an eye on this chat list. All right. So I want to address a couple other questions that came up in the Facebook group, and then again, I will keep an eye on the chat as we go. So one of the other questions that came up recently was, they actually showed reference to a video. It was a Roland Jupiter XM, new synth from Roland. And I love the fact when people are trying to compare our stage piano to new synthesizers that come out, because I agree that the PX5 and the PX-560 are amazing synthesizers, and the sonic palette is far just beyond pianos. So this particular demo video for the Roland Jupiter had all kinds of arpeggiators and all kinds of amazing things, which is, in fact, one of my favorite things about the PX5S. But one thing that I really want to go into and show you in this demo, well, hopefully, in fact, I've never demonstrated this before at all in any of the webinars, is how to use drum parts within a stage setting. So like build a drum pattern from scratch and incorporate that into a stage setting. So I'm going to take you through that. Hopefully my overhead camera is working a little better than what we had going the other day. So you should be able to see, and of course it moved on me. Moved again. I am wearing pants, luckily. There we go, all good. So, try and adjust this angle here so it's symmetrical, and I should be able to zoom in. You guys hopefully can see the screen a little bit better than the other day as well. So, all right. So I'm starting with a basic stage setting. There's nothing, nothing going on here but piano. So I want to take you through some of the process of building a stage setting with some animations, with some drum patterns, with some arpeggios, all from scratch. So the PX-5S has what's called a phrase recorder. When the specs for the PX-5S first went up on the web, a lot of people interpreted them a little differently than what it actually is, because it is a multi-track phrase recorder, and but it is not a traditional workstation per se. Hey, Anne's in the group. Hello, Anne. Thanks for joining us. So these phrases, the unique thing is they can be triggered live from the keyboard. So that could be a bass line, it could be a drum pattern, it could be any number of things. And in some of the factory stage settings, there's examples where I use that phrase recorder for certain things. One example, one of the factory ones called Rock Concert. So we've got this drum and bass, or it's actually, guitar and bass groove here in the left hand. So that's a really fun and creative way to use the phrase recorder to play a riff that otherwise might be difficult to use. By the way, someone was asking from earlier, I was using Setlist Maker. All right, so back to this topic of phrases and how you'd use them. So I'm just going to go again to a sort of blank stage setting with just piano. And I'm going to choose a drum sound. I'm choosing the hip hop kit because I like the sound of the hand clap and nice deep kick drum here. So on the left hand side of the PX-5S, and I'll zoom in a little bit here. Let's see if I can adjust this camera view a little bit, is the phrase recorder. All right, nobody ever ventures here. So here we are in a live video going to the phrase recorder. If I just press the phrase button, I can select, there's actually 100 built-in phrases, all kinds of different things, but I can also just find a blank one. There's 900 blank phrases in the PX-5S. And one of the cool things about this is you can import MIDI files into phrases. So you don't have to program drums like I'm going to do here in a minute. You can find drum files from all over the web and put them into the phrase recorder. But I'm going to show you how, hopefully, to record drums on the fly using the phrase recorder, and then I'm going to incorporate that into a stage setting. So I have this this drum kit up. I can set my tempo. I'm going to speed it up a little bit, about 80. If I press and hold the phrase button at this point, I get some recording options. I'll zoom in to the screen here so we can see it a little bit better. So record mode, is this a new phrase or am I overdubbing an existing one? I'm going to start a new phrase. We have the ability to quantize notes on input. Quantizing is going to fix our timing. In this case, I'm choosing a 16th note. I can also choose by default how many measures. Okay, so I just have 2 measures in there for now. I think you can go to 99 or something ridiculous like that. So if I press a key at this point, it's going to start recording. So I'm just going to start and hit a kick drum. very exciting to measure phrase that I just recorded. So one of the reasons I did that is that you have the ability to do some loop recording here. So I just want to get sort of, a basis of where my downbeats are in. And so if I press and hold that phrase button again, instead of recording a new phrase, I can now overdub on top of that. Okay, and I can hit the record button and it'll start going. And at any point I want, I can jump in. Okay, now one cool thing that I've done, I played this hi-hat part, but it wasn't perfect. If I press the record button, I can undo that. All right, so it's pretty slick. All right, so I can re-record that hi-hat part. Okay, so I've got a pretty basic drum part recorded in here. So now when I press, hit the record button actually to stop, and then I hit the right button on the far right hand side of the keyboard, I can now choose to write this drum phrase. I can call it anything I want. So I will, by the way, if I use knob 2 will let me choose my letters here on the screen. Scroll right and I will just call this drum. Appreciate the chat. I'll take a look at that in just a second. And I can give it a number, call it whatever, drum pattern number 7, even though it's not number 7. And I can choose a location number. Remember, there's room for 900 phrases in here. All right. Oops, and I hit the wrong button. So let's rename it again one more time. Welcome, Paul. It's great to have you here. So many of you here. That's awesome. By the way, if you guys are not subscribed to this channel, please, 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 it means a lot to everybody at Casio Music Gear if you would please subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right, so I'm just renaming this phrase. Drum. I'm going to give it a number. Sort of an arbitrary number there. Drum number 4, press enter. Okay, it's now saved. All right. So I have a drum phrase recorded. So if I want to use this drum phrase within a stage setting, there's a couple steps. So on the left-hand side where it says arpeggiator, the trick here is that if you press and hold the arpeggiator button, you can choose whether or not your zone is playing an arpeggio, and let me zoom in real tight, or a phrase. And if it's a phrase, you can choose which one. That's the one I just did. All right. So now if I play a key on the keyboard, sorry, I zoomed too far out. My pattern is changing. So one other cool thing that's happening here is if I play a different key rather than the first one I started with, which was that kick drum, the whole drum pattern transposes. So we're going to fix that. I'm going to zoom in all the way to the screen here so you can see on the right hand side on the bottom right it says note. C2 was my root note number. If I scroll all the way up on this selection and choose fix, that means it's going to play the same. It's not going to transpose that drum pattern across the keyboard. It's going to play it at the original transposition that I played it in. So no matter what key I hit, the drum pattern, so it doesn't matter. I play any key on the keyboard, and that drum pattern automatically starts playing. So now I can go to other zones within my stage setting and add some other parts. So I could go in here and grab a pad sound. So we just learned something else. The drum pattern is being played because the arpeggio is on, but the arpeggio is also playing on this other sound that I just selected. So press and hold that arpeggio button, and for the zone that I have selected, I can turn that zone off. Let me just zoom in so you can see that. All right, and I love the funny name, Screw Up. That's what I've been doing. All right, so we now have a pad, and when we play the keys, all right, so now we have a pad, and now we can add more parts on our other zones, whatever they happen to be. Okay. One fun thing about the PX-5S, you can also get in and edit the drum sounds. I believe you can edit them as well on the PX-560. So if I were to choose this back to my first zone with that drum kit, press edit and choose tone, I can go in here and choose, that hand clap sound. Let me turn off my other zones so we can hear it clearly. I'm going to turn off the arpeggiator for a brief moment. So there's instrument edit. So whichever note that I play, so maybe I want a different clap, and I can change its pitch. There's all kinds of things we can do here. So you can completely customize the drum sounds. Anyway, another thing you can do is choose what effects each of the sounds are on. So if I want this drum clap to go to maybe my system delay, I can turn that up. We should be hearing that. All right, so that's the idea. I got a couple examples here. So I'm going to go to another stage setting I have here. This has got some pads and arpeggios. So on that zone 1, I can turn it on. I can choose a drum kit, and instead of an arpeggio, I can choose that phrase that I just made. Phrase, drum 4, and make sure it's fixed across the entire keyboard. And now when I play, whoa, oops. Almost. I have to make sure that zone is turned on as well. Here we go. So by the way, I will post this stage setting up on the user forum following the broadcast today. There's another one that I made that was sort of inspired by that example that was posted. A very similar groove. So drum parts can really add a lot to the stage setting. There is one compromise on the PX-5S, is that your drum part is one of your zones, and it has to be zone 1. So that's one limitation on the PX-5S. PX-560, however, that keyboard has a full arranger, so you have the ability to have all kinds of drum accompaniment, plus your 4 sounds, one of which can have an arpeggiator. So they both can accomplish similar things in different ways. All right. So Andre has a question. He says he's having trouble with one of his sliders, and he keeps seeing that the delay keeps turning on you. So what happens on the PX-5S when you move a slider or turn a knob. I'll zoom into the screen here real quick. Anytime you move a slider or knob, it shows you the parameter that you're manipulating on the screen. If you're not moving something and it's showing that on the screen, that unfortunately means that you have likely dirt in that potentiometer that needs to be cleaned out, that there's something physically wrong with it. So if you follow the users groups, couple solutions that I can recommend. Number one is canned air. That's the most common thing to use. Again, it's most likely dust or something like that. Spray some of that canned air in there and see if that makes any difference in the function of that slider. Other thing you can do, and I would post this over on Casio Music Forums, but there's cleaner products, something like Deoxit. Don't know if you ever spilled anything in there or got anything in there, but you could spray some cleaner in there. Deoxit's the one that comes to mind, but there are others that are out there. So if you do those two things yourself, then unfortunately the PX-5S would probably need to be serviced by a technician. So anyway, sorry to hear that, but hopefully something that you can get fixed up. Roger is ready for beverages. Excellent. I'm always ready for beverages. Awesome. Ricky's asking, is there a way to use the knob on the PX5 to control drum volume? PX560 to control drum volume. I believe the answer to that is yes. I'm pretty sure you can set it to the balance of the accompaniment. That would be the solution. So as you scroll through that list, you'll see all the tone parameters like cutoff and effects parameters and things like that. But double check it and see if you find accompaniment balance and see if you can adjust that there. Yeah, PX560 has some great options there for real-time control. All right. Yes, you are welcome. Okay. Kwasi is asking again the iOS settings app. It's called Setlist Maker. Casio does not make this app. It's available on the App Store. It's just a common utility app that a lot of different performers use, and the fact that it integrates MIDI program changes, that's one of the reasons we started using it for demos. It made seeing all the PX560 stage settings at once easy to use, but we don't make it. So Setlist Maker is the name of the app. Maybe somebody else in the chat can pick up and tell us the name of the company that makes it. In fact, see if I can pull that up here on my iPad while we're talking. So appreciate the questions, guys. This is great. So I am looking for the name of the app here. Roger, I was correct. Balance controls the accompaniment. And yes, you can assign a knob. See, I'm glad I'm right. I found it, guys. Setlist Maker, I'll pull up my iPad screen here real quick, is made by Arlo Media. So you can see it up at the top. Setlist Maker, arlomedia.com is the name of the company. So you can find it, get all the information you need. There you go. Arlo Media. Love the interaction, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Brad. All right. Is it possible to create a new style on the PX560? So unfortunately, no. You can't create new drum patterns. What you can do, there is a rhythm editor, but what it allows you to do is basically make different combinations of rhythms. So for example, you could take the drum pattern from one rhythm style, the bass pattern from another, and combine them into a user rhythm. There's room for a few of them in there. I would also recommend you check the CasioMusicForums.com website. I believe some users have figured out some other ways to import rhythms from other Casio products, so check that out. Roger's asking, can you use that app with the PX-560? Unfortunately, no. PX-560 doesn't have a way to select registrations from MIDI that I'm aware of. There are some new things in Setlist Maker that it does now that it didn't do originally. So maybe it's possible we can capture some system exclusive messages and make that happen. When I get my hands on a PX-560 next, I will try it. Unfortunately, in the conditions, I am not broadcasting from the Casio office. I'm broadcasting from my house, and I don't have a PX-560 here to confirm. So, but it does have a basically a MIDI record function in Setlist Maker, so you could select a registration. It will capture all of that data, and maybe it's possible, just not in an easy way, sort of capturing that system exclusive stuff. So great question. Keep them coming. Question, is the PX-5S still being manufactured? Absolutely. PX-5 is still being manufactured. They're still shipping new ones. I mean, there's definitely a few people that, unfortunately, for one reason or another, have sold their PX-5Ss, and you can find them out there used, but new in the United States with a 3-year warranty. Absolutely, new products are still available. So great question. So Ricky's got a question while I noodle here on the keyboard. See if I can pull that up. Sorry. Regarding accompaniment volume, can you see only upper 1 and upper 2 and lower on the controller menu? Ricky, I might have to ask you to rephrase that question. So accompaniment volume, as we were talking earlier, you can, it's listed as balance. So I think you can assign that to a knob. We'll double check. I think Roger found it a minute ago. All right. Andre has a question about Leslie effects. Great question. You basically want to get the Leslie response on organ tones like the ones in Bank 6. So, yeah, I can walk you through that. Let's start from scratch. Let's start from a raw organ tone, and I'll take you through the steps of configuring all of that. So I'm just choosing a raw organ preset from the left hand side. I like the overdrive organs. You know what, we'll start with that one. So if you want to assign effects control to a tone, there's a couple steps. But first, let's get in and configure this effect on this organ, dial it in the way we want. All right, so I'm going to press the DSP button over on the left-hand side. On a PX-560, you could do this by pressing the tone button right side of the display, then pressing edit on the screen, and then you can get into the effects editing from there. The parameters are exactly the same. They're just laid out differently on the screen. So first things first, I hit that DSP button and we can see which effect algorithm we have selected. In this case, it's using the drive rotary. We have overdrive gain amount, overdrive level, speed. So here's where we can manually get an idea if the slow and fast speeds are where we want them. So sometimes the fast speed is not fast enough, or maybe the acceleration, the ramp up time is a little too slow or fast. So let's see how this works. Okay, so the one parameter, rise acceleration. I like that a little bit faster. I'm going to set it around 40. So when I go from slow to fast, it gets there pretty quick. Maybe slow it down just a little bit. So rise acceleration, I'm going to set around 34 or so. Slow fall acceleration is currently 10. Again, I like it a little bit faster. I'm going to set it to a value of 20 or so. And I also like my slow rate a little bit faster. There we go. I'd like to hear a little bit of motion in there even when it's on the slow speed. All right. Pardon me. All right, so now that I've configured that, and I also have the option down here at the bottom to configure my vibrato chorus. Maybe I want to put on chorus 2. Maybe chorus 1. Pretty cool. All right, so I've configured the basics of the Leslie effect the way I want it for the tone that I'm building or the stage setting that I'm building. Now, to answer your question, how do you can set that control, that Leslie fast speed control, to the mod wheel or a foot pedal? All right, that is done from the stage setting. So I pressed exit. Now I'm going to press edit on the right hand side. Let me zoom out. I'm pressing edit over on the right hand side. When it's asking, I'm choosing stage setting. Going to scroll down to the bottom of the screen and choose common edit. And this is where you configure all of the knobs and slider configurations for the stage setting and what they do. All right, so I'm going to go to where it says modulation edit. I'm going to change what my modulation wheel does. And instead of doing CC1 modulation, I'm going to scroll through this list, and I know it's pretty towards the back. And you'll see the parameter called speed. So now I exit out with the wheel in the down position. And then I would save that stage setting. So the real trick is in the stage setting, going in and choosing under common edit, the parameter that the mod wheel or the pedal is going to target. So in this case, modulation, my target is the speed parameter. Hope that helps. Great question. All right, I'm taking a list back. So, or look back here at the list. So there are no weird questions. Thanks for asking. Yes, the answer is yes. The question is there a way to import Yamaha rhythms or styles to Casio products? Some of our products, including the MZX series, are capable of reading Yamaha style files. You simply go to where you're importing a MIDI file as a style. Instead of choosing a MIDI file, you choose that Yamaha file name, and it will import automatically. So some of our products do that. There are some users that have been posting rhythms and styles on Casio music forums. That's the place to go. Tony, I love your question. So the question here is, can I change the pitch bend wheel to function two different ways? So this is sometimes done for guitar sounds and other sounds where you want to pitch bend up maybe a whole step, and then but you still want to do that octave dive down. Absolutely. So let me see if I can find a fun preset to demonstrate that with. So great question, Tony. Let me show you how to do this. Go back to my overhead view here. So I just grabbed this. This might be one of Jerry's Jerry Kowarski's lead sounds. So again, the stage setting configuration is what's going to determine what the knobs and sliders do. So if I edit this stage setting, let's go to Common Edit. I believe it is here. And it's not. I know it's possible. Hold on. Okay. Here's the cool thing. Actually, a really amazing thing about this. So I was wrong where to look at first. Let me zoom into the screen. If we edit stage setting, we go to zone edit and mixer edit. You will find all the different parameters for this this zone. Its key range, its velocity range, its volume, pan position, tuning, and then you'll find two parameters: bend range down and bend range up. Okay, so bend range up is set to 2, which is a whole step. Okay, and bend range down is set to 12, which is 12 steps, which is an octave. So we get So the cool thing about this is that it's independent per zone. And one of the reasons this is cool is, let's say, I'm going to take the sound that's on zone 1 and save it elsewhere in the PX5. I didn't name it, so I'll have to go find it. So I'm going to put that same tone on zone 2. And I can change its pitch bend range different from zone 1. So I could change it to bend up 7 steps. I could change it to bend down a different number of steps, maybe 5. So that's some fun sound design kinds of tricks that you can do just by simply changing the pitch bend range for each of the zones. Very, very cool trick. Love the question. Thank you, Tony. Really appreciate that. So you're asking how to clean your PX5. So thank you for, first of all, owning a PX5, one of my favorite instruments from all time. So generally speaking, as far as clean instruments, I typically use like a Windex type product to clean the keys, to gently clean the front panel and the surface. In the case of the sliders over on the left-hand side, sometimes you have to get in there a little bit with a Q-tip or whatever, something like that. But just a gentle cleaner like a Windex type product, and make sure you've got a good clean cloth, nothing that's abrasive at all. And, just gentle cleaning should keep it as good as new. If you have your PX5 out all the time, uncovered, maybe in a room where it collects dust, you have the risk to get dust in between the keys and maybe have some key contact problems at some point in time. So it's always a good idea to keep those keys clean, to keep the surface clean, to keep the grooves in here by those sliders pretty clean. And you can get piano covers that will cover up the instrument when you're not using it, and that'll help it last for years and years and years. Hey, and Ricky found it. Awesome. I knew it was in there, Ricky, and again, I apologize. I don't have a 560 here for today's webinar, but I appreciate you jumping in. Awesome. Thank you, Tony. Tony just got his PX-5S a couple weeks ago. Welcome to the club. You are, I think if you subscribe to this channel, which I hope everybody here does, looks like we've got a number of people here today. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps us out at Casio quite a bit. but you'll find on our channel there is a specific playlist for all the PX5 related videos. You can watch them there. Also, get over and create an account at CasioMusicForums.com, and there you can find tons and tons of sounds to download. Rich Formidoni's here. Awesome. Just to add to the cleaning question, spray the cleaner on the cloth and not directly onto the keyboard. That's absolutely perfect advice there. You don't want to spray anything directly into all the grooves and electronics and buttons of the surface of the keyboard. Spray onto your cloth, get that decently damp, and use that to wipe the surface down. So I think both Rich and I spent years working music retail, usually a Windex type product. Spray it on a cloth, give it a gentle wipe down, and if you need to do some detail cleaning after that, things like Q-tips and whatever work well. Awesome. Nice to have you here, Rich. Like and subscribe. Awesome, everybody. So I'm just taking a list further back at the chat window here, see if there were other questions. Hope you guys enjoyed the part about making drum patterns earlier. Phrases are probably one of the most underutilized function of the PX-5S, and the fact that you can put in a bass line or a drum part. There's some other examples in here, and I don't have all the factory presets in here at the moment, but there are some examples where phrases are used for other things. So this question comes up all the time. Unfortunately, the question is, can you convert PX-5S hex layer tones directly into the 560? The answer is unfortunately no. We've asked Japan a few times for a utility that would help us do this, but they're always, hey, Rich subscribed. Awesome. Thank you, sir. So there is not a direct converter to take tones from the PX-5S to a PX-560. And as you've discovered, there's for one hex layer tone, there's almost 500 parameters available. There's a couple reasons for this. The biggest one is that the PX-560 has a different waveform list than the PX-5S. So it actually has more samples in it than the 5S. There's more ethnic instruments. There's some new guitar samples. There's actually new string samples. There's a lot of content in the 560 that goes above and beyond what is in the 5S as far as those waveforms. So that's the number one reason that the hex layers aren't directly compatible, is because that waveform list is different. So hope you understand. Awesome. Tony was asking, in my opinion, my personal opinion, which Casio keyboard has the better key bed. So obviously, I have a PX-5S here, and it is one of my favorite instruments. Honestly, what we're doing in some of the new instruments, like the PXS-1000 and PXS-3000, that is a new key bed design over the PX-5S and PX-560. It's quieter. It's a little bit just more solid feeling overall. I guess a little bit less bounce. It's quick. It's responsive. I absolutely do love that action in the PXS-1000 and 3000 if we're talking about a portable instrument. To take your question a little bit further, the best action Casio makes is in a product called the Selviano Grand Hybrid. That's a product that actually has a grand piano key bed in it. In fact, hey, fancy technology. There we go. I can just drop an image in here. It has a full-length grand piano key. It's made with the same processes and materials as what you'd find in a C. Bechstein grand piano, including a hammer mechanism that follows the same path of movement as the hammers on a grand piano. Absolutely amazing action. Here's another look at it. If you get the opportunity to play a Salviano Grand Hybrid from Casio, either the GP500 or, GP510 is the new model, or GP310, it is absolutely the closest thing to a grand piano experience you can find, and something that can go in your bedroom, in your office, in a school practice room, wherever it happens to be. It is a gorgeous piano action. So some of our artists that use the PX-5S, like Steve Weingart, he also uses a Grand Hybrid for a lot of his writing and recording. It's an amazing instrument. So thank you for the question. Hopefully that answers that. Hey, awesome. Been a fan since hearing the grand piano sample from the PX-860. Yes, that's similar to what you'd hear in the PX-5S and 560. It's a great piano sound. So the question is regarding the QSC K8 speakers. That's actually a phenomenal set of sound reinforcement speakers. We love them. That's actually, if you ever see the Casio booth at the NAMM show, you'll see us using the K8s, and we also have those paired with the subwoofers. But absolutely love the sound of those speakers. So, we use the K8s with a subwoofer. Rich is mentioning, if you need K12s, it really depends on what you're doing. If it's just keyboard amplification, or if you need, or if your whole band is coming over that PA speaker system, that might make a difference in what you're choosing there. But we do love the QSC products. They're a great choice. So yes, Greg also loves the PXS 3000 key action. It's incredible. Hey, I love it. Casio, we've been doing this all the time lately, obviously. All of us are home, and we're practicing proper social distancing here at Casio. So we're trying to do as many of these webinars as we can, which reminds me, we have been doing a number of Casio artist spotlights. Usually at the same time as we're doing this webinar, 3 p.m. Eastern time each day. In fact, we have one coming up Wednesday and Friday this week. Wednesday's artist spotlight. Oh my gosh, I just had my brain just absolutely went away. Bria Lee. Great artist from the East Coast, amazing singer-songwriter. And then on Friday, really excited about this one, we have Alicia Witt, actress and singer-songwriter out of Nashville. She's been a Casio user for years. So please tune in to our artist spotlights. It's this kind of format. We can put your comments up on screen. You can ask questions. Some of them have been playing songs during the live broadcast, so I hope you join us for those. Please subscribe to our channel, and you'll hear about those live webinars. So again, Bria Lee, 3 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. Alicia Witt, Friday, also 3 p.m. Coming up, we have Josh Paxton, amazing New Orleans pianist out of New Orleans. We also have Larry Dunn from Earth, Wind, and Fire coming up, and many, many more. So, another favorite, Jonathan Brooke, will be joining us next week as well. So 3 p.m., subscribe to the channel, and we will be there. Hey, I love it when the family shows up too. Awesome. Yeah, the piano sound is amazing, and I think with the PX-5S, PX-560, or any of the Casio products, don't forget there's a lot of variety there. A lot of people, start with that stock concert grand, the first preset that comes up, but you can dig in there a lot further and edit those tones and get a lot of different expression out of there. So in previous webinars, I experimented with using the Dolce Grand Piano preset. You'll find it on both the PX-5S and PX-560. The Dolce Grand I actually made a preset where I made it even darker, even mellower. Added tons of reverb, little delay. So. So a lot under the hood besides those factory presets. Dolce Grand is one of my favorites if you're looking for something really mellow, something moody. I think Roger uses that one as well. Roger, incredible composer, by the way. Roger, we're going to have to get you lined up for one of our artist spotlights. You guys should follow Roger on SoundCloud. He's producing music like at an unbelievable rate. I can't believe how much music you post, Roger. So you can find him in the PX-5S and PX-560 users group on Facebook, or look for him on SoundCloud. Give him a like, give him a follow. And Roger, reach out. We'll get you scheduled. These questions come up all the time. Is there an updated product in the works? Sorry, we can't ever talk about new products. So the reality is we're always working on new things, but we just really can't give you any details about them, but I appreciate your interest. Awesome. Oh, and sorry, Roger, you were asking about the software that we're using. We are using Ecamm. Ecamm Live is this, it's for Mac only, and that's providing this level of integration. So awesome. So Roger, back on that question about the QSC products, you're using K12s. Awesome. Yeah, that's great speaker systems. Hey, and Roger's got a YouTube channel also. So after you subscribe to the Casio Music Gear channel here on YouTube, which, by the way, earlier this afternoon, I know we were at 16,600. I would love if we can get to 17,000. Help us out, please. That would be very, very helpful. Subscribe to our channel, and then subscribe to Roger's as well. Subtle pads, that's, I think, absolutely one of the signature things about both the PX-5S and PX-560 is the amazing pads that it can create that slide so nicely under those piano sounds. So I agree completely with what you were saying, That one, not so subtle. That's a much larger example, but my favorite color? My goodness. Yeah, the real easy answer is blue. So, Casio XW-G1. Awesome. I actually have one a few feet from me, and there's been some requests again during all of the social distancing to break out the XWs and do some videos on those. So stay tuned, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and maybe we'll do some things on the XW series coming soon. This is someone's asking about cameras and gear, and this setup is actually pretty straightforward. I'm using a Canon DSLR here, and above me, up on a boom stand, I'm actually using a microphone boom stand here. If I switch to the camera on the laptop, you can see that I have basically a Logitech webcam connected to a boom stand, and that is what is giving us this overhead view. It's not the perfect resolution, but for instructing you guys, for teaching, it helps you guys out. So appreciate the interaction and all the thumbs up and everybody. So yes, me too. G1 is awesome. All right, so I'm trying to think of some other things, other questions that possibly came up in the webinar that I didn't address the other day. The big one we did the other day was doing the auto wah with the clavinet. So the real trick to getting the auto wah to work, we covered this question the other day. I'll dive in. Let me see if I can pull my camera view up here real quick. Camera overlay. There it is. The real trick to getting the auto wah to work is to raise the distortion level, and that will drive the auto wah to the appropriate amount of wah. So that's the real trick to getting the auto wah in the clavinet. Tony's asking, Sweetwater video, I was using 2 pedals controlling pad volume. Hey, that's awesome. So PX-5S has 2 foot switch inputs. PX-560 has a volume pedal input, but the PX-5S has 2 foot switch inputs. And they can do some amazing things. I love this feature of the PX-5S. Let me see if I can find an example that uses it the way you are describing. So give me just a moment to find a particular... Oh, here's one. Found it. Perfect. Factory preset, actually. It's not a factory preset. If you go to Casio Music Forums, you'll find a version 2 factory set of the presets where we made some changes from the original ones that come loaded in your instrument. The names are all the same, but we tweaked them a little bit. So preset number 03, stage setting 03, called Illuminated, has 2 things. It has a grand piano sound, and it has this other big pad. So the piano, pretty straightforward. And then there's also this pad sound on zone 2. And if you know your PX-5S well, you'll recognize that that pad sound is also found separately in the instrument. It's a stage setting called Maximilian. So we use it a couple different places. This stage setting does have control over each of the elements in this pad. So we've got, let me zoom out so you can see what I'm doing here. So in this stage setting, slider number 5, that's 1 bell. Slider number 6 gives us another bell on the key up, which is really slick. Some fun stuff. And then each of the 4 other sliders bring up different pad elements. So what you were asking about is pedal 2, which when I step on pedal 2, you can hear it open and then close that filter. Okay? Do it again without the bells. So the trick that's happening here in this stage setting, let's go to the common edit page, and I'll zoom in. Common edit page of the stage setting. We'll go to pedal 2. Pedal 1 target edit. So you'll see that pedal 2 is controlling filter cutoff, and we have a minimum and maximum value. So if I take that minimum value down low, and when I release the pedal, you'll hear the filter close most of the way. But the real trick to what's happening here, so that's how much the pedal is operating, the range of operation. But the real trick to this is on the first page there is an on rate. So you can make this happen over a period of time. So if I increase the on rate, that's real fast. But if I take it down to maybe single digits, let's go real slow. So it becomes very, very musical, and you can set up these rates to really breathe. I compare this to using like Leslie on an organ sound, that while you're playing, you can kick that second pedal and have the pad sounds breathe while you're playing your song. So so I'm making all of that happen with pedal 2 without touching any of the knobs or sliders. I can use the sliders now to bring in. So that's a really ingenious thing that the Casio engineers came up with, on using pedals with envelopes to control parameters over a period of time. And we use it a variety of different places in the PX-5S. It's actually those factory clavinet patches that say pedal wah in the name. Those are actually using the sustain pedal exactly the same way. Instead of controlling the filter, we're controlling that wah-wah parameter, and we have a really quick envelope on it. So another question from the group: what's the difference between the XWP1 and G1? Great question. XWP1 and G1 are very similar. I mean, almost like how the PX-560 and PX-5S are similar. The XWP1 and G1 both share the same mono synthesizer. So that aspect, the leads, the basses, all the different parameters that the mono synthesizer has, is identical in the two instruments. The differences are in the other sounds that each of the instruments offer. The XWG1 is unique that you can load samples into it. So in particular, that's useful with the step sequencer. You can load in your own drum samples. So pick your WAV files off the web. There's a software utility that lets you convert them and load them into the XWG1. And that adds some amazing expression and power to the XWG1 to load in sampled sounds. You can also use sampled waveforms within that solo synthesizer as well. So its range of sound in that regard is a little bit wider. The XWP1 does not sample. That being said, it has some other tools up its sleeve. It has a drawbar organ mode, and it also has the first version of this hex layer mode that I was just demonstrating on the PX-5S, where one sound can have up to 6 different components. So that was originally introduced on the XWP1. The two instruments are great together, they're both unique in their own way. So appreciate the questions and the comments. Tony, I would agree. The 5S is, for those of you that don't know my career, I've worked at a lot of different keyboard companies, and the 5S is absolutely one of the most amazing products I've ever been involved with. And its range and depth, it's something that obviously, one of the reasons I'm doing webinars like these is to encourage you to get under the hood and explore all the different things that it can do. And, get over to those presets that you can download on CasioMusicForums.com, a great website. But also don't be afraid to get under the hood and experiment. I'm going to do one thing that I did a little bit of in our webinar on Facebook the other day, is talk about building a hex layer tone from scratch. So let's take a look at this real quick. So hex layer tones. So hex layer tones, simply put, it's one instrument, program, patch, whatever you'd like to call it, with up to 6 components. The amazing thing here is that in both the PX-5S and PX-560, you have hundreds, over 400 different waveforms to choose from. And you don't have to be a programmer. There are some utilities in here, some shortcuts that really make it easier for you to create some stacks of different instruments together that just automatically work without doing any work. So when I edit a tone on the PX-5S, the one parameter that I got to bring your attention to is initialized by wave. It's right here on the front page of the PX-5S when you edit a hex layer tone. This parameter is in a different place on the PX-560. It's actually found in your system settings. So if you go to system settings, turn this parameter on the PX-560 before going to the next step, which is layer edit. So now, with that parameter turned on, the real advantage is when you choose a waveform within the hex layer editor, and we have 6 layers that we can build things from. So I'm going to turn a few of these off to start. So I have a flute on layer 2. I have a choir. Don't hear that choir. Let's find out why. Okay, so it has, I'm going to change its key range and change its velocity range. So that's a cool parameter that you could just have the choir come in when you play above a certain velocity range. So if I set to 90, if I play softly, I only hear the flute. But if I play the key harder, then I hear both the flute and the choir. So this is where the hex layer sounds can get really, really expressive. So on layer 6, for example, I could put timpani. There's a key range. I can set it from low key on the keyboard up to, in this case, it's set to C3. But the timpani is only going to sound when I play a harder velocity. So now I have flute and choir. So just by choosing different waveforms on each of these layers, I can quickly build something really compelling. So let's find something else to put in here. I could add maybe along with the flute. By the way, on the PX-5S, rather than pressing the plus and minus button so many times, you can use knob 2 to scroll through. And what I was looking for there was the oboe. And I can turn the volume of that oboe up and change its velocity range. So it's a little louder than the flute. So now I've got flute and oboe with a little choir in the background. And all I'm really doing is choosing different preset waveforms for each of these components. So I'm turning on another layer. I can choose brass, or I could choose vocal ensemble. Let's choose something clarinet. Clarinet's cool. Or maybe we could do a bassoon, but change its key range to the low end of the keyboard. So this is nice that we can have the instruments just work in the range they're intended. So we'll make our oboe work in just the top of the keyboard and the bassoon work in the lower end of the keyboard. Key range for the oboe, I'd like it to start right above. By the way, there's a num key button on the right hand side. If I press that button, I can change my key range. So I just set my key range low for that oboe to be right here, F3. So now I have the oboe and then my bassoon at the lower end of the keyboard. So building hex layers, I mean, you could do orchestral things like this, but you could also start grabbing a bunch of synth waveforms and build something unique. So I'm going to go there for a couple minutes and build a synth sound. All right, so I found a blank hex layer, and I'm going to press Edit. And this is something fun you can do on both, again, the PX-5S and PX-560, is you can edit each of the layers one at a time, but if I scroll left, I can do all 6 layers at the same time. So on the PX-560 on the screen, there is an all button that lets you edit all of the 6 layers at the same time. So I'm going to just choose from here sawtooths. So, and if I turn on each of those different layers, so there's one sawtooth waveform, turn on 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now I have 6 different sawtooths happening at the same time. And now I'm going to go and start panning each of these to different places. So layer 1, I'm going to pan it a little left. Layer 2, a little right. Layer 3, more left. Layer 4, more right. Layer 5. So I've got these stereo pairs. I'll go way hard left, and layer 6, way hard right. So now I have 6 sawtooths panned out across the stereo field, but they're still all sounding the same. So I'm going to back out a little bit. You'll find on the main page, a detune parameter. So now things start to get interesting when you detune all those sawtooths and have them happen at different pitches. Real quickly, we can go to the amp page. I'm going to select all layers once again. I can change my attack time on all of them. Oops. First I got to turn down my initial level down to 0. Fun. And then I'm going to change my release time. So real quick, without much effort, you can create some absolutely gigantic synth sounds. If you really want to get make things more interesting, you can set the filter settings to be a little bit different on each of those 6 parts, and that'll just make the pad even more unique sounding. You are absolutely welcome. Thanks for joining the webinar. Please, please, please subscribe to our channel. I would really, really appreciate it. Hey Chris, welcome to the group. Appreciate the comment. I'm glad you are here, and I'm glad you're enjoying it, and thank you for asking questions. So you cannot, the question is there a way to trigger a sound or sample that's stored on the USB thumb drive to a key? And unfortunately, no, that's not possible. The PX-5S and PX-560 aren't samplers per se, so while you can play back WAV files from the USB drive, you can't assign those to a key. So Hopefully that answers your question. I'm just taking a look at the group chat. Thank you guys for having we have about 36 people here at once. Keep the questions coming. I'm going to go for a little while longer, and then we'll wrap things up for today. But like I said, if you subscribe to our channel, you get notified of our other live events. Wednesday, tomorrow, 3 p.m., we have a artist interview, artist spotlight with Bria Lee, and Friday at 3 p.m., we are doing artist interview with actress, singer, songwriter extraordinaire Alicia Witt. Hope to see you there. Yeah, there's all kinds of ways to play back samples. There's apps, you can connect them with your, connect them over USB. So that's an option. Lead sounds on the PX-5S. So Tony, good question. There are a variety of preset lead sounds in here. I mean, I just made this synth sound a second ago. I mean, that could be a good starting point for a lead. Obviously, you wouldn't want that slow attack. You'd want it to have a real snappy, fast attack. And then you'd want the release to be a little snappier too. So where it really gets interesting is shaping a lead sound with the filter. The PX-5S has an amazing filter envelope section. So if we were to take this sound, close the filter a little bit, and there's what's called a filter envelope. So we can actually set I don't know musically what kind of lead sound you're after, but so just by shaping that filter a little bit, changing, closing the filter, and then using the filter envelope to shape the attack. You can come up with some really cool lead sounds. You can also use portamento. Back on the main page, there is portamento available, so you can turn that on. So there you go. Thank you, Stefan. Awesome. But Tony, I think you're a new user. I think you mentioned earlier you're new to the PX-5S. Casio Music Forums is a great place to go. Get over there and explore the wide variety of sounds and tones, hex layers, stage settings that you can download. But also explore what's in there already. There is so much to explore, and I think you'll find some lead sounds built in. Jerry Kowarski, great programmer, has done a number of them, a number of the factory presets, as well as some others that are downloadable. So, Chris says you can use Setlist Maker to trigger WAV files or samples. Hey, how about that? Very cool. I did not know that. So for those of you that just joined us recently, we started out the broadcast answering a question about Setlist Maker and using it with the PX-5S to select stage settings. So great, really powerful app. Not free, but worth it. So great question. Keep the questions coming, guys. Please like and subscribe. Greatly appreciate it. The more you like and subscribe, the more videos like this we will do. All All right, so since we're waiting for questions, maybe I'll look at my hard drive or my USB drive here and see what other kinds of cool sounds I might have had on here and how to use them. Camera angle doesn't show it perfectly, but to load sounds on the PX-5S, there's two ways. One is to connect and use the editor for your Mac or PC. The other is to put the files on a USB drive, and from there you can load them from the media menu. So from media menu, I press load, choose stage setting, and then we can choose files that I've downloaded and whatnot. Blade Runner. Keep talking about how I'm obsessed with it. Here's another one for you. I think every webcast has to have a little bit of Blade Runner. So, no, there is not an editor for the PX-560. The 560 has the large graphic screen. The 5S does not. So that is one other difference between the two instruments. So here's a stage setting that's available for download at the forum for the PX-5S. So this has the, I'm using the arpeggiator for this. So that's kind of a crazy stage setting for you. That is 4 zones on the PX-5S. I can take it apart for you just a little bit. One obviously is nothing other than the timpani right here in the middle of the keyboard. We have another one that is so this is a really, really cool trick. And by the way, Stefan, you are a XWG1 owner. This trick can be done on that model as well. So earlier in the broadcast, I used the phrase recorder on the PX-5S and showed you how to do a drum pattern. In this particular case, I used the phrase recorder and all I did was play a chord. Okay, and I played it in the key of, in this case, C minor. So I played a chord. If I turn this phrase off, you know, something using all the stretch that I had available, I played that chord. So that is playing back that chord when I press that key. So the phrase recorder on the XWG1 can do the same thing, where that phrase can be assigned to a key. Okay. So that's using the phrase recorder on the PX-560, really unique way. Jean-Michel Jarre, yeah, I should do some of his sounds as well. The instruments should be able to do that as well. Tef was asking, can you design the same patch on the 560? So not exactly. The 560 can do each of the individual components, but you can't arrange them in exactly the same way. The PX-5S has no rules for sounds that can be stacked or arranged on the keyboard in any way. The 560 can do 2 sounds in the right hand and 2 sounds in the left hand. So some of these configurations aren't exactly the same. But that's, in fact, why don't we explore this for a minute? Let's take a piano stage setting, and I'll show you how to use the phrase recorder to build a chord hold like I was just doing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to press a phrase, and I'm going to select an empty phrase. I'll zoom in so on the screen so you can see. So I have an empty phrase. I can choose new or how many measures I want it to go. I'm going to go for many, many, many measures. And all I have to do at this point is play a chord, and the PX-5S will begin recording this phrase. All right, so it is still recording this chord that I'm playing. All right, and that's long enough. So I'm going to save this phrase. I'm going to give it a name called chord. I'm not going to take the time to spell it all the way out. There we go. So now in the arpeggiator section, we talked about this earlier. Instead of doing an arpeggio, your target can be a phrase, and I can choose the phrase I just made. So that is a chord hold function. So that's how I sort of did that chord in that Blade Runner preset a minute ago. So I want to address a couple of the questions that are coming up on the chat about, make the 560 do what the 5S does. They are two different instruments for two different customers. And, as an example, the PX-5S does not have drum patterns per se. It doesn't have accompaniment. It doesn't have speakers, and it certainly doesn't have a touchscreen and many, many other things. So the PX-560 also has the ability to split and layer super fast from the touchscreen and change the split points on the fly super fast. The 5S can't do any of those things. So they're designed with different things